Happy Sunday and welcome to our program. We call it Moral Side of the News. I'm John Blim with the WHAS Crusade for Children. With me, as always, is a distinguished panel. Rabbi Emerita Gaylia Rooks from the Temple, Reverend David Harkleroad, South Point Church, New Albany, and Father Joe Graffis, Archdiocese of Louisville. Welcome, panel. Another derby is in the record books, and along with it, another uptick in COVID in Louisville. Health officials blame it in part to travelers coming into the city. Dr. Mona Lisa Taylor of Norton Healthcare said, "We've all gone to our fun events, derby, thurby, festival events, and I think we're going to continue to see an increase in the number of COVID cases around the community." So turning to our panel on Moral Side of the News, are you masking up again, or do you think this is what we can expect from here on out?
Well, I'm not masking up again. I never stopped masking indoors. And if I'm at an outdoor restaurant, when the server comes over, I always wear a mask. I just, in spite of my allergies, don't think it's that difficult a thing to do to take care of our neighbors and ourselves. But yeah, about 2-3 months ago, when my daughter was talking about possibly bringing my baby, my grandson, who's 2.5. They live in Brooklyn, and my husband, Rabbi Rapport, is retiring, and they're having a big retirement party for him outdoors at the temple, and it's next weekend. And I had said to her, you realize that if you bring the baby who's too young to be vaccinated, it will be right after Derby, and things, even though we're in the green now, you know, will at least be the yellow and possibly the red by the time you get here. So don't hesitate to change your mind, as much as I want to see my baby.
Well,
so I am definitely masking and encouraging everyone to do so.
I am concerned that, you know, we're trying to move too fast. I certainly understand why people want to get back to normal. Obviously, last week we passed 1 million people that we lost from COVID, which is just unbelievable when you compare it to our wars and other diseases of recent memory. Obviously, one of our panelists lost her husband, Reverend Sally McLean, to COVID implications. And that was a very tough one. Obviously, Wayne Perky, you know, so there's lots of people. And I try whenever I go to any drugstore, grocery store, wear a mask, you know, just as protection. When I'm at a service, I don't wear a mask when I'm behind the altar, but I do when I give out communion for the sake of all parties involved. So I just think we need to be, you know, careful. I worry about things like the Derby because they're so packed in and so crowded. And I like outdoor restaurants, being outdoors, but being cautious there as well. This is not over, and Lord knows we don't know when another new strain is going to appear. I just think, especially with our senior citizens, we need to be cautious.
Yeah, when I read this article, and just as I was thinking about it, this event of the Derby taking place, you know, personally, I feel like this is a difficult thing, but I think the economic good outweighs the risks. It doesn't mean people can't be cautious, but I think we have to keep in mind the genuine economic good that's there as well, the moral good that there is in the economy. And I don't just mean rich people getting richer on their horses. Every level of the economy in Louisville and in a sense Kentucky and even other locations benefit from this. I know a lot of folks lower on the socioeconomic scale who this really helps them. Derby helps them a lot. It's a big part of their needed income in the year or something they anticipate. So canceling the Derby does have a lot of trickle down. So I'm glad they had it. I think the risk level is acceptable. And yes, people have to take their own health risks into account. They have to take their own just personal care into account, whether or not they should be doing certain things, wearing a mask, attending certain events. But again, just the economic good for people on all levels of the socioeconomic scale in our area here, vicinity. I'm glad they had it. And, I would just add, there's probably a lot of things that get spread when we have these kind of events. We're just more aware now, obviously, with COVID. So it does bring a new level of awareness, but I think there is a good that has occurred as a result of having the Derby.
A lot of things that are spread, but not necessarily life-threatening things that are spread.
I don't necessarily mean to make a huge distinction there or cram them all together. Just saying that anytime you bring a crowd together, we increase risks, and there's got to be attention to that.
Yeah, the cases have quadrupled since Thunder, and so now Derby and we're in the yellow right now, and
a lot of the people that have caught COVID recently, and I know quite a few people who have, are fully boosted.
Right.
So they're not in critical condition. They just need to take care of themselves for a couple of days or stay away. And thank God we're at that stage where we're not overloading the hospitals. And I agree with you, David, that I wasn't in saying we should cancel the Derby, but I just think whenever we go some places, we need to be cautious. Or at least some parts of us, speaking for older generations, and you two young folks don't know about that, but we just have to be a little bit more careful because the consequences for us can be much more severe.
All right, panel, let's continue our talk about the Kentucky Derby. After winning the 148th Kentucky Derby, extreme long shot Rich Strike can be seen nipping at the lead pony's neck and its reins, which prompted outrider Greg Blasi to begin punching the horse's face. The post-race moment sparked plenty of reactions on social media. PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, released a statement saying it will file a complaint against that outrider. So turning to our panel on Moral Side of the News, let's talk about horses, their treatment, and the Kentucky Derby. Let's hear you weigh in.
I saw a fresh update this morning. The horse is going to survive. I thought about using an Oscars joke, but I thought that one would be better. But I love animals, and I'm a big animal fan. I think animals need to be cared for well. I think it was not wise. I read that the horse got in his blows too. I think the horse was biting the rider of the lead horse. And, it's a regrettable situation. It was caught on camera. The whole thing, I'm sure, could have been handled better. In the scheme of things, I don't think the animal was really injured. I'm sure the guy wishes he'd not done that at this point. Seems like emotions flared. And so it went. But yeah, I certainly advocate for caring for animals, and hopefully it'll just be a reminder to everyone involved that could have been handled differently and could be handled differently in the future.
Yeah, I remember seeing it, and not only was he trying to bite the horse, but he did bite on the leg, the outrider, and those people, they have a really, really, really tough job. But I guess that means he could run 1.5 miles because he still had enough energy after running that race. But
I guess we'll find out soon, right?
I thought that was, I don't know how you get an animal off of you. I mean, if a dog bites you or bite somebody, you're gonna squat the dog to get away. I'm not sure that's abusing an animal. How do we balance all that out? I don't think he was hurt. But the outrider needed to do something to get the horse calmed down in some way, shape, or form. So, but we need to respect animals. They're all part of God's creation.
Well put. I had read that he was bit, the outrider was bit several times on the leg. And, the horse, the adrenaline and the, coming down after the big race, but that was also true for everyone who was part of that, which I don't think excuses abusive behavior. And I would put that in the category of of abusive behavior. It probably could have been handled better. I'm sure it could have, but I don't know enough about horse racing to know. I know that there are many people who think that horse racing is abuse anyway, and that the way thoroughbreds have been designed and bred to have, the long, thin legs and this and that horse racing in general is abusive to animals. I don't know. I really don't know much about it. I certainly know those horses love to run, and they are magnificent, magnificent creatures. The one thing that upset me was I read somewhere about that the guy who punched the horse, that his brother had been suspended or whatever. I don't care about his brother, unless, are you saying this is a genetic thing or whatever? I didn't think that was fair to bring into the picture, that he had been suspended or fined or both, whatever. But I mean, even the Bible talks about, in many places, about kindness to animals, but especially horses. Solomon had a stable of so many horses, and that was the epitome of beauty and grace and power and just, how magnificent God's creatures are. So I think that we need to treat all of God's creation, humans, animals, planet, water sources, and all the rest of that with much greater respect than we often do.
I really agree with that statement. I don't know much about horse racing either, or horse racing ethics, but the Judeo-Christian values from Genesis are that we're supposed to have dominion over creation, that we're supposed to care for it, that we're supposed to be these caretakers. And I also really appreciate the passages in Scripture that talk about the way that someone, you can tell something about someone's personhood by their style, their character, by the way they care for their animals and their beasts. So yeah, I think that we are supposed to be caring for creation. We are supposed to care for animals, and not, some people take that to a point that animals should have all their own rights separate from humans. They are there for us to have dominion and stewardship over, and so we need to do that well and wisely.
I heard a cute story that relates slightly to this, is that the track announcer at Churchill Downs, I can't remember his name right now, told the story that one of the Baffert horses that won the Triple Crown a couple of years ago, he was in the backside and was talking to Baffert, and Baffert said, well, why don't you hold the horse? So the announcer held the horse, and Baffert went over to help take a picture. And all of a sudden, the announcer says, I don't know how to handle a horse. There's this big animal next to me. What happened? He starts panicking. But he said the horse kind of looked at him and says, you don't know what you're doing, do you? That's okay. We're buds. And he said the horse just kind of like, okay, I know you're not comfortable. That's okay.
I got this.
He said it was an interesting connection, he said. And after he went back to the barn, he said the horse turned around and kind of almost like, bye, friend, come back and see me. And it was kind of cover story. He said, now, some other horses I've done that with, and they want to bite me. And he said, that just panics the heck out of me. So, different horses, like human beings, have different personalities. Surprise, surprise. And how do we discipline, animals, I think without abuse. You just can't have a discussion with them to say, okay, we're going to do some restorative justice here with an animal. But there ought to be better ways to do it.
Well, this program right here just shows we all have different personalities, I think, each and every week. But it was a true Cinderella story, the second biggest upset in 148 years of the Kentucky Derby. Rich Strike, an 80-1 long shot, captured the nation's hearts by winning the Derby. NBC commentators, saying they had covered 80 derbies between them, had never interviewed trainer Eric Reed and had to look up the name of jockey Sonny Leone to see how to pronounce his name. And the winning team pocketed $1.86 million on the horse they bought for $30,000 last fall. So, panel, I'd love to hear your Derby stories, your winning ticket, but everybody loves an underdog, don't they?
Yeah, I thought it was great for the whole Derby part of the week of being back. Got a buzz from a lot of people, not only locally, but nationally. I think the story of Wayne Lucas winning the Oaks for the first time in 40 years at the age of 86 was another great story. There's so many interesting little stories. Mind That Bird a couple of years ago. We all remember so much for experts about horses and all the statistics that go into it. It depends on a lot of racing luck and good management. I was so shocked that this jockey had never run in a graded stakes before, and his first graded one was the Kentucky Derby, and
And
yet
he won?
he won. He did a marvelous ride. The way he wove his way through there was like, holy cow. I mean, I don't know how those jockeys do it with 20 horses around you. I mean, without bumping everybody and getting disqualified as we've had, but it's a great story. I had some friends in Minnesota that had a Derby party up there, and he bought a ticket on every horse so that somebody at their party would have a winner. And his brother-in-law, who I happen to know, he said, this horse, he's going to go to the glue factory, And of course he won. And, so it was like they were just having a ball. And yeah, I think the upset is an interesting story. It'll be interesting to see as we go on to the Preakness and the Belmont.
And I love the way the story started. That, I mean, it was like 15 minutes or something before the deadline when they even got in, because
5 minutes.
5 minutes. I mean, yeah, 15 minutes before was when the other horse scratched and they became, yeah. I mean, it's like you talk about the Cinderella story, when the clock strikes midnight, I mean, the whole thing, it was great. It was great. We used to go a couple of times to the Oaks. I mean, the Derby's on the Sabbath for us, so we've never been to the Derby, but we did get invited to the Oaks a couple of times, and we would buy one ticket for each horse and divide them up, among the people at the party. And yeah, I can't imagine what that would be like to have won that.
And
but
the
we
owner
all
and
like the long shots.
owner and the trainer were very down to earth, salt of the earth people. That's always a great story.
And that barn fire,
Derby,
coming back from the barn fire.
Yes.
I mean, it just.
and I'm almost giving up the business a couple of years ago. So
Yeah.
you never know. And $30,000 versus one of the other horses in the race was what, $1.7 million to buy that horse. It's like,
Wow.
big difference, So buy a $30,000 horse next year, and maybe you got some hope.
Let's all chip in and buy one for Moral Side of the News.
For Crusade for Children.
Even better.
And all the money goes to Crusade for Children.
Let's hope we wind up in the black on that, not in the red. But you're right. David, go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, it's great story. It made for great entertainment. As I kind of thought about the moral side of things, I think it's just a reminder that there is sort of a thin moral line when it comes to gambling. Some people made some money by pure luck, and a lot of people lost money on a horse they didn't even know was going to be in the race, potentially. And so there are those in my evangelical tradition who would just flat out say all gambling is wrong. I don't know that I would stand there personally, but I certainly think there's a lot has to be evaluated, and there's a lot at stake, and often, again, for people in poverty, often when it comes to gambling. And so obviously a big piece surrounding the odds of this horse winning, and I think individuals need to think carefully about the moral ramifications in that. So
I think another thing that I was very conscious, I've been on the backside several times, which is my favorite place to go. But we realize at Churchill Downs, there are 1,500 horses on the backside, because they're not all thoroughbreds. They're all the outriders and all that kind of stuff. And just the amount of people, and many of those people are sometimes undocumented, not just from Central America, but from Ireland and other countries as well. And a lot of them they're not the wealthiest people in the world, and yet they're doing incredible work and hard and difficult work, feeding the horses, shoeing the horses, and taking care of the horses in so many different ways that it's much more than just the horse and winning the Derby. It's a lot of different people. I said, I know the bugler, and I know the lady who used to do the roses for 30 years. So I said, all those people that contribute in so many different ways to making it the world event that it is.
So a follow-up question, do you think betting is too easy? I was talking about this before the program years ago, not that long, 10, you would say to someone, are you going to the track? Here's a 20, place a bet for me. Now it's all right here worldwide, the record numbers of betting and bettors this year. Is it too easy to bet? What's your thought on that?
I think gambling can be an addiction, just like a lot of other things. Gambling can be used responsibly. There's a lot of sports betting on ball games of all sorts, and I worry about that addiction. But it's also like bourbon is another major industry in our state, and I think if you use it responsibly, it's not bad. But you can also use it irresponsibly or can get addicted to it, and there's always pluses and minuses with these various things.
I just want to underscore what you said, Joe, that it's not always a case of using it responsibly. I mean, it is chemically addictive in your brain for some people, and it's a disease. And I hope that people will seek help who need it, whether it's for alcohol addiction or gambling addiction. I guess I never really thought about how easy it is now to bet on the Derby, but just online poker and, I mean, it's just constantly, I play a word game called Wordscapes, and all these different ads pop up about, oh, do this and we'll cover your first $1,000 or something. And I'm like, wow. But I also know there was a Japanese-owned horse in the Derby this year. So we had the most gambling bets placed from Japan, and the Arab world loves horse racing, and, they've always been a part of this. And, I think when we look on the sunny side of the Kentucky Derby and these kinds of major events, it is something that people can get together and enjoy, and, like baseball or football or soccer, or whatever.
Yeah, jumping in again on the gambling piece. Personally, I do think it's a bit more of a gray area, but I just think it has an area we have to tread lightly. Folks I know that are pretty hard against it would highlight some issues beyond personal issues. Like there are addiction issues, there are those personal issues, but one of the kind of maybe moral concerns with gambling is if you win, you're always winning at the expense of someone else, right? So your win is at the expense of someone else's loss. There is nothing ultimately produced from it. It's all sheer wager. So I think there are some moral gray areas there. But again, I don't know that it is inherently bad. It's just something I think we need to make sure that there are some fences around. So again, I don't know personally a lot about gambling. I have a low risk threshold, so I don't do a lot of gambling. But I think that there should be attention to that. Should it be easy? How easy should it be? Those are good questions.
All right.
I think it goes even into our own state, whereas you have sports betting in Indiana and obviously casino betting. We can't seem to get that in Kentucky. I have real mixed feelings about it, saying that I think it would be good for some businesses within Kentucky to do it, and that would help raise a lot of people. On the other hand, there's always that downside and what else it causes. Boy, that's where it gets, as I said, moral issues are messy.
Finally, on our program, Moral Side of the News this week, My pilot has gone incoherent and I have no idea how to fly this airplane, exclaimed a passenger aboard a single-engine Cessna flying over Florida. 20-year veteran air traffic controller Robert Morgan jumped into action, talking the passenger down to a safe landing. He said, "I just had to keep him calm. It felt really good to help someone." Panel, a scary story, but a very happy ending.
Unbelievable. And he apparently really nailed that landing. I mean, not only did he bring it in, and that was a great, great story.
Yeah, and I think the moral lesson in this is so clear. Never get in a single pilot plane. You know, I've got some friends that fly small single engine planes, and it scares me to death. I know they love the hobby, but what a great story. And the man, you're right, the air traffic controller is to be commended, and the gentleman that landed the plane.
I remember a couple of years ago, well, more than a couple of years ago, my cousin was thinking about going in the Air Force. So my dad took him to Bowman Field. We had a friend who took him up in a plane, and both of them, you know, it was a student plane. And the pilot said, "Okay, son, you're going to take over and you're going to land this plane." And my cousin just was like panic, but the pilot got him to land the plane, and he did it, and was kind of amazing to me. But that convinced my cousin he never wanted to be going to the Air Force afterwards.
And that's probably why his father did it.
I think all of us probably could share a single engine airplane story. I have a few myself from when I was in college, and somebody said, "Let's go fly." And I had to hold the door shut on the aircraft from Southern Illinois all the way to Chicago because it wouldn't close.
Oy.
Yes. Well, that'll bring to a close our program, Moral Side of the News. Thank you to our panel, Gaylia, Rooks, David, Harkleroad, and Joe Graffis. If you'd like to catch this program again or any episode from the past year, just jump on YouTube and search for Moral Side of the News. And also, Moral Side is now a podcast. Just search for it wherever you get your podcast. Thank you, panel. Until next week, have a great week, and we'll see you then. So long.
Seems like a cliche. People have been saying it about the pandemic. We're all in this together. Well, the crusade is something that we've all been in together for many, many years.
And these amazing machines that saved her life, I just remember seeing WHAS Crusade for Children.
For those of you who contribute to the crusade, just want to personally say thank you. It's helped so many families just like mine. We wouldn't be here without you.
In less than 3 weeks, you can help change a child's life during the 69th annual WHAS Crusade for Children, June 4th and 5th. But you don't have to wait till then. You can donate right now. Just go to WHAScrusade.org. That's WHAScrusade.org to make a secure online donation and see the many ways you can help change a child's life. You can always mail your donation to 520 West Chestnut Street, Louisville, Kentucky 40202. That's 520 West Chestnut Street, Louisville, Kentucky 40202. Thanks for helping change a child's life through the WHAS Crusade for Children. And join us June 4th and 5th for the 69th Annual Crusade.